I'm going to shorten your bio because you just told me to. But Judge Nechtem has served as an Associate Justice in the Juvenile Court for 13 years prior to being appointed as the Chief Justice in 2014. She is the past president of the National Association of Women Judges, the country's leading voice for women jurists committed to diversity and equality in the system of justice, and I was a recipient of their Justice Joan Dempsey Klein Award, which is given each year to honor a judge who brings distinction to their office and exemplifies the goals of that group. She's also been on their board. These are the important things, right? And was the recipient recently of the 2011 Massachusetts Judges Conference Judicial Excellence Award. She was also awarded as Outstanding Community Service Award from her alma mater, Simmons College, right here in Boston, for her lifelong service and commitment to women, children, and her devotion to issues affecting the fair and equal justice to our people in our courts. So more importantly, or I think more importantly, Chief Justice Nechtem has been a true supporter of this conference since taking the lead in 2014, and we have been lucky every year that she comes and participates in the conference, and we'd like to thank her for starting the day off.
Thank you. Good morning. All those achievements, what I'm most proud of is I'm a kid from Chelsea, and I grew up in this fabulous little city that I credit for whatever success people will say of me and my achievements. It's because of that grounding that I think I had in that little crazy little city, Chelsea by the Sea. But first, let me say good morning, and to both Wendy and Amy. Thank you for continuing to invite me to the program. I am honored and privileged to be here, and certainly honored and privileged to be at the helm of the juvenile court, and to all the planning committee, because I know what it takes to present a program of this size and this magnitude, and I know that looking at the agenda, it's going to be an outstanding day. And I love, Wendy, the way you ended it, where you said, well, the last bit that you'll talk about is a call to action. And it's a little bit of what I want to talk to you about today, is we're on the brink of some significant changes here in Massachusetts, and action is something that we want to invigorate and to do collaboratively. So I'm looking forward to hearing what comes out of your conversations this afternoon. I want to say good morning and welcome to you all. There's some new faces for me, and many familiar faces that I had the privilege and honor of working with when I was in Essex County and through my time as chief that I've gotten to know. And so the new people that are here today are perhaps new to juvenile justice and child welfare practice. We're thrilled to see a full room and the excitement that is in the room today. I also want to give a shout out to the Administrative Office of the Juvenile Court, because without whose support and brilliance and encouragement, I could never do what I do every day. And my partner, of course, Jim Morton, who is here. Jim, raise your hand. He said, don't shout me out, but I'm sorry, Jim. Jim is the court administrator for the juvenile court, and without whom I could not do this work. And also the staff, Martha, thank you, Martha Gill, for serving on the committee. We have a new administrative attorney in Sean Tobin, who's here, welcome, as well as Rachel Wallach, who you all know. I hope I didn't leave anybody out from the administrative office. And also welcome to the many, I see some chief probation offices. I'm so happy to see you here, as well as we see some clerk magistrates that are here, welcome, and a few of our judges, because it's hard to get time away, and this is a very, very important day. So I'm glad you've all taken time in your busy schedule. I see John Millett here. John, good morning, who is the supervisor for all of the CPOs and the juvenile court, as well as Josh Doan, who he and I are really starting to agree on things, which I always worry about Josh, but thank you for being here as well, and your leadership and at YAD. So let me jump in with a few things. I mentioned a few people in the room, but the most important people in the room are really all of you. You're the lawyers, the social workers, the probation officers, all of you that are doing the work in the field every day. It's hard work. You know that. You have to choose to do this work. It's not something you can just pop into and say, well, I'll take a juvenile justice or child welfare case. It requires the heart and soul and the tenacity to do this work for children and families. So I thank you for all you do every day, and you're clearly the heroes of the day and the heroes in the work that we do. I shout out to council because where you may have heard Chief Justice Gantz, the SJC chief, of course, who spoke at the State of the Judiciary conference recently and talked about a constitutional emergency, a crisis that was occurring in the juvenile justice child welfare world, and he was particularly talking about the lack of counsel who are taking these kinds of cases, and particularly out in the western part of the Commonwealth. Constitutional crisis to the point that we do not have enough counsel to represent these kids and families at a 72-hour hearing. So as a result, the cases are delayed, sometimes upwards to 2 or 3 weeks. And you all know who do this work that a one-day delay for a parent or a child is an extraordinarily long time. So we are working collaboratively with counsel out there and I know the leadership in CPCS here as well, to strengthen our resolve and entice other attorneys to take these very, very important cases. So, as a response to what we feel is a constitutional crisis for these kids, we've had to really come up with some ideas about how we're going to have attorneys be interested in this work and how we're going to spread the good word of the juvenile court. And there's a lot of ways that we've been doing that. Next week we're going to be out in the Springfield area to hold a sort of a summit or a forum with the attorneys out there in collaboration with DCF and CPCS to really talk about what this work involves. And we know that once you do the work, well, for most of us who've been doing this work for a lifetime, it's the most important work and the most rewarding work. So we are taking some steps in order to change that so-called crisis. In response as well, and we talked a bit about how important collaboration is between the judges, between counsel, between probation, DCF, DYS, our clinicians, people that work on the ground in this work, is something that I'm so fortunate to have been a part of a statewide movement in our work. So I want to address the work. You may have heard, those of you who were here last year, I talked a little bit about the leadership forum that you're going to learn more about and read about the work collaboratively that is happening in Massachusetts. We have now, and the leadership forum is made up of the commissioners from probation, from DCF, from DYS, from CPCS, as well as Chief Justice Carey, myself, who are working with the community in figuring out best ways to strategically affect and move the dial on the work that we are doing. And I'm thrilled to announce, and you'll be reading it in a news release shortly, that in our forum, our leadership forum just recently received a $1.2 federal grant for a 2-year interagency strategic plan to help celebrate. It really celebrates the commitment of our work here in children and families. We're going to work on issues of disparities in our system. We're going to work on issues of permanency, on education, on policing, and it is done in a collaborative, committed way, and I feel so fortunate to be a part of this team, and you're going to be hearing more and more about that. And I know I see Lindsay Heffernan in the audience as well, and I credit Lindsay with her work as well, and Josh Dankoff, I don't know if he's here, who is our program manager, who is working to ensure that our system is fair, our system is equitable, and we are able to move these cases in a very timely fashion. So the work is from the JDAI, which you all know about in the delinquency area, is spilling over into the child welfare area, and we understand that there are dual tracks, that a lot of our kids are not only involved in the delinquency system, but also have one foot in the child welfare system. So I'm very, very excited about that opportunity, and I think you're going to see some really positive changes in your courts. Because, of course, the work is done. We can talk on a broader scale and the leadership forum, but it's the work that you all do and the judges, probation, and staff that do on the field to make this work move quickly. And in doing so, each of our each of our first justices, along with our chief probation officers and CPCS leaders and DYS and the Department of Youth Service leaders, have all started to meet on what we're calling case flow management teams. So with the uptick in the cases, you all are working under the heavy burden of a heavy caseload. The child welfare cases have gone up almost 30% since 2012. It's a new normal. We're not tapering off. So we have to figure out how best to deliver justice and deliver a timely justice and access to justice to our constituency. And we're doing so in talking and collaborating to determine how best we can help you get in and out of the court in a timely fashion as well, so you can do your work. So we're responding in kind to what we're dealt with, which is a huge increase in our cases. We have a dip in the delinquency cases, but our child welfare cases are still through the roof. With that, I'm excited to talk about, just briefly, and I'm mindful of the time, is a launch of the child welfare rules. Very soon you are going to be seeing the promulgation of new child welfare rules. We've had a committee working diligently in the administrative office, which is judges from all over the state, to update and revise our child welfare rules, which have not been looked at since 2007. And those rules were out for comment. I'm sure you saw them. I hope you saw them and had an opportunity to comment, as well as the judiciary. The entire judiciary had opportunity to comment on them. And we're just about ready to submit them to the SJC for hopeful promulgation in the springtime. But just briefly, what you'll see in that is an eye towards permanency, first and foremost, at every juncture of the stages and events in the courtroom, in that you're all concerned with permanency. I know that. I don't disrespect that or say that you're not already thinking about that. But the rules are going to mirror what you have been thinking all along. That's what's happening in this child life from the get-go, from the temporary custody hearing on. The judges and counsel are going to have an eye on permanency. What's going to happen to this child? What are the plans for having this child out of foster care? With that, we will implement what's called a permanency checklist, which will be at the hands of every judge, that will be familiar with the attorneys, the questions that will be asked, social workers and others, so that we're looking to not delay events in the courthouse, so that the judge is going to ask you a question relative to the rules and relative to this family, and we're asking that you have the answer to that so that we can move the case through the system. We don't want cases coming in that aren't meaningful events and delays, and that requires everybody to be at a heightened preparedness, and the judges as well. So it's a little bit of a culture change, sea changes that I'm hoping once we get the systems and the rules up in place and the new judges that are on board trained. We have a lot of new judges. We're almost at full capacity. I think by the end of the year we will have 41 judges, which is the capacity. Beginning of next year we lose a few already, but it's a great opportunity to make sure that we in a timely fashion handle all of your cases. With that, the Rule 6, the uniform rule, trial court rule of permanency, is going to be promulgated by early spring as well. What that means is we are now in line with the federal rules on permanency, and again, it's an eye towards permanency first, the urgency of permanency for these kids, but also a voice, a child's voice in the courtroom on permanency and what they want to see happen. And that's now dropped down, the age has dropped down to 14 rather than 16. It used to be 16 where kids had to be afforded an opportunity to be heard. So a lot of, I think a lot of good changes. I hope you think that as well. It's coming to fruition in 2018. I know it's going to be a good year. 18's a lucky number, so I'm really confident in that. I'm going to close with just one word about what you're going to hear today. I'm so thrilled that you're here, Doctor, as well as the doctor in the afternoon, to talk about the adolescent brain. We hear so much about it. We understand it more. We're working to ensure that our kids are supported in that regard. With that, the trial court is looking at the possibility of what's called an emerging adult court, not in the juvenile court, in the district court, where the 18 and over, in my humble opinion, should be. I know that might be controversial in the room, but we are ensuring we are looking to ensure that that age group, which are still quite vulnerable and quite young, have an opportunity to have a focused attention from the litigators as well as from the judges. So I want to just close with, I also want to acknowledge the law clerks. We have a lot of law clerks in here too. Raise your hands, the law clerks that are here that keep us safe every day. Thank you for your work. Did I forget anybody? I don't think I did. All right. I want to say thank you all for what you do every day. Thank you, Amy and Wendy, for your commitment and continuing to make the juvenile court, juvenile justice, and child welfare a priority. We never lose sight of that. And I'm honored and so privileged to be in this position and humbled by it every day. Happy New Year, happy, healthy New Year, and have a fabulous holiday season, safe and healthy with your families. Thank you.